Wow, wow. I just love that opening. Do you love it? I love it. And I'm telling you, what you do today will dictate where you'll be tomorrow. And you are in the right place at the right time. So go ahead and type in the chat box. Where are you watching from? Because the lady that we have on tonight, whoo, she is really a true leader of leaders. And one of the things I want to say, is it just me, or does it feel like time is moving even faster? I just got to know, because I'm telling you, it feels like to me, man, August is flying by, right? And there's Dr. Benita Harris. Oh, you are really Dr. Benita. You are awesome. We're so happy that you're here. And whoever else is here, type in the chat box where you're watching from, because what I'm here to say is that you're in for a real treat. I hope you have your notepad and a pen, because we're going to be giving some real key, important insights. And okay, Ruth is here. Hey, Ruth. So we got Charlotte in the house. Who else? What other cities, what other countries are here? We want to hear from you. Type in the chat box where you're watching from. And again, you can hit the like page at the Real Money Coach. But what I want to say to you is that the reason why we're doing the Real Money Coach, these virtual town halls, is because we want you to understand there's greatness within you. And when it comes down to it, what happens on the outside is not as important as what happens on the inside. And so when there's greatness within you, the key is for you to be able to operate at your greatest good. And so one of the things that I do to help me stay focused is, I have scriptures on index cards, and I carry them with me in my pocket, and I just take them out and I kind of recite. For me, being a man of faith, I recite God's word. And it just really comforts my inner man, right? And so I wanted to share that with you. What do you do to maintain your best? Go ahead and type in the chat box. What do you do to really be at your optimal best? All right. And this is great. I mean, we got Alice here, Charlotte, but also Cynthia, all right, from Alabama is on. Thank you, Cynthia, for joining us. And so what do you do? Type in the chat box. What do you do? What are some of your routines? What are some of your habits that allow you to be your best? I want you to type in the chat box, because again, this is interactive. We can learn from each other. And so let's go ahead and learn from my colleague, Tony Jackson. Let's bring him up on the stage right now. And I want to, he's always got a lot of energy. He is somebody who's really passionate about what he does. And I think that's one of the things that I really love about leaders. And you're gonna meet this young lady who is a leader amongst leaders, because when you are on purpose, life takes on new meaning. It truly does. And so in a few moments, Tony will be joining us, and I'm gonna ask him, what do you do, Tony, to stay at your optimal best? But while he's coming on, I want you to understand that this year is flying by. And I want to do a check-in. How are you feeling? Just type in the chat box. And there's Tony. How you doing, Tony?
Marlon, I am awesome, man. I am so excited. Marlon, I can't even begin to talk about just how exciting things are right now.
Wow.
And, it's just so much wonderful things are going on. And here's the thing. In the midst of all of the chaos, right? In the midst of everything that we hear about, everything that we see on the news, God is still good. He's still blessing. We're still growing. Man, I spoke with Cynthia from Alabama by text today, and she's a phenomenal person, has some phenomenal friends, hosted a great Zoom party for me about a month ago. And
wow.
And so it's really awesome, man. And here's the thing we're in the midst of a brand new time, and what I was thinking about, and I, not to get into politics, but, you have the first African-American woman on a major ticket, right? And that's something to celebrate, whether they win or lose or whatever. I'm not going to tell you, we're not going to get into all that. But the fact that we're at this point where that can happen, and that just says a lot about where we are. And so when you think about how how it swings, right? We got the whole thing with Mr. Floyd, George Floyd, and then you got the protests. You got all of this that's going on with the COVID situation and all this, but yet in the midst of it, right? And so what I love what the word says, had I not seen the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. And so I'm just so excited. And you know what, Marlon, we got one of Mount Carmel's finest on tonight with us too, man. So
that's right.
It's really exciting. I saw Miss Alice Martin is on tonight, and want to give a shout out to her and Cynthia and Ruth Bell and other people. Just tell us where you're from. I think it's really exciting to see all the different places, states, countries that people join us on these Thursday nights.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And I think, one of the things, this is what's Corinthians, I think 4:17. I carry these index cards, right? And it says, "For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, is working for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory." And so, what you just said, Tony, I just, grabbed that. That was the first one on. And,
you just hit something right there for me, man, because that's one of my favorite passages, because it really talks about, it says, it even says it says that I'm perplexed, right? That I'm crushed on every side, but not destroyed.
Right.
That's and what I love about that, it says, so the outward man is perishing, the inward man is renewed day by day.
Right.
And so as you pick up from, Marlon and I talking here, one of the things that we do to stay encouraged and stay motivated is we scripture, right? Listening to positive things, and I have a to-do list that I'm working from every day. And so all those things make a big difference. Here's Karen from Washington State, Marguerite Lee from the Queen City, another one of Mount Carmel's finest. So man, it's a great evening. Yeah. It's a great night, and we're in for a treat.
Yeah, and and as Tony said, he gave a few of the things that he does, and I just showed my scriptures on index cards. Would love to see what do you do to be your optimal best, because again, it's really about your energy, it's about your state, what you focus on. And so I see here we've got that Ruth says, "I am a greeter. I love meeting people. That's my joy."
Wow.
That's really powerful for Ruth to say that, because it's a blessing when you connect with people, right? And that's she says, "That's my joy. I love connecting with people," right? Alice says, "I learn and grow from every experience."
Every experience. Wow. That reminds me of Nelson Mandela, right? Nelson Mandela said, I never lose. I either win or learn.
That's right.
And so even when things don't go our way, when we learn from those experiences, then that's great. So, and I got to give a shout out to the Park Church too, because I know that's where Ruth and Dr. Benita Harris, they go to the Park Church. And so we'll give a shout out to them tonight as well, our good friends over there. And so, yeah, Marlon, so it's all this series we've been doing on the business owner's mindset, right? And what I love about so many of the stories, so many of the testimonies that we heard about how people overcame obstacles to get to where they were. I don't remember anyone coming on saying, "Hey, listen, I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth," or they've all had their tests, their trials. They've been tested and proven, right? And so I love the fact that they've come and they shared with us exactly what they've been through, and they've just kept it real. And again, our motto, as you know, is we want information that is relevant. We want the real, right? Relevant. We want it to be educational. We want it to be actionable, and we want it to be life-changing. And I think that our guests have done that over and over again. And I'm telling you, I believe it tonight too, because this is a powerful, powerful person we have tonight. And you're talking about someone committed to helping people be better.
Right.
And you've known Carmen a long time.
I have.
And as we will find out as she comes, is that she is the founder and executive director of Above and Beyond Students.
Yes. And
helping students achieve. I mean, what better calling, and talking about helping people be better. Wow. I mean, that's pretty amazing to me.
Yeah, I think so. And again, one of the things that you're going to hear tonight is a lady who is on mission. And again, there's greatness within each one of us. And so as you're listening to her story, as you're listening to her journey, I want to encourage you to, do some inner reflecting too. As Tony said, real, right? We really want to bring you real, authentic, transparent individuals, right? And one of the things I've always realized is that, wow, if somebody has done something that says it's possible. And so as you hear her story, as you hear how someone's living on purpose and said, I want to make a difference for the world. I want my life to matter, to count. I want each one of us to understand that your life matters. Each one of you was born on purpose. Each one of you, there's something within you. You have a divine purpose to fulfill. And sometimes we can get, kind of caught up. We can get distracted. But we're doing these every Thursday to remind you of the truth about you. Because it's real. You are special. There's nobody exactly like you, 7.3 billion people, and you're one unique, one genuine, one of a kind. And so get excited because your life matters. And someone once said to me, they said, Marlon, really, if more of us realize that we're born on purpose and that we are someone's answered prayer. I mean, let that sink in. If you don't do what you're called to do on this earth, there's going to be other people that are going to suffer because you did not fulfill your purpose. They say the richest place on the earth is not the gold mines in South Africa. It's not the New York Stock Exchange. It's a cemetery because so many people took their gifts, their talents with them to the graveyard. And so I want to go ahead and have Tony introduce. He kind of gave this lady is really phenomenal. And Tony, I'm gonna give you, brother, because you made this happen, man. And I'd like for you to bring her up. I feel like a drum roll, please. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Well, man, and one of the wonderful things too, let me just say this, that our guests kind of really introduce themselves by when they share their story.
Yes.
But tonight we have Carmen Blackman. I know she's a trustee at Mount Carmel Baptist Church. She is also very involved in the prayer ministry. And she's the founder and executive director of Above Beyond Students. And what I love about Above and Beyond Students is that it's an organization. It has a mission to help provide quality after-school tutoring programs that empower students to succeed. And they have some wonderful goals and unique services and things that they offer. And so, and their philosophy is that the belief that greatness resides in each and every person. Each and every person has greatness inside of them. Man, that sounds like one of your lines, man, that greatness is inside of you. And so with no further ado, tonight, we want to bring our special guest, Miss Carmen Blackman, onto the screen with us. Good evening, Carmen. How are you?
Hello, Tony. Hello, Marlon. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I was trying to figure out who you all were talking about. Then you didn't get my name. And I thought, oh, we're talking about me.
Right.
Wow. No, we're talking about you. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Carmen, what we really want to do is we really want to encourage some people tonight. And one of the things that's wonderful about what we do at the Real Money Coaches is we don't hide our faith. So don't feel like you can't express that. We don't do that. We live and walk by faith. Dale Ryan's with us from Greenville, South Carolina. And so what we want to do, just start off, just kind of tell us a little bit about your journey and how you started, Above and Beyond Students. And one of the things I want to lead into this is so often when we think about business owners and we talk about business and we talk about entrepreneurs, most of the time people are thinking for-profit businesses. They're thinking about those type of things, not understanding the dynamics of running a nonprofit are just as equal. And in some cases, there's even greater accountability. So we'll get into that a little bit later down the road, but just kind of share with us your journey and how you got to start Above and Beyond Students.
Well, I greatly appreciate the fact that your show embraces people to express their journey through a faith walk. And because my journey truly is 100% a faith walk, nothing about this journey has not been related to my faith, related to God's will, purpose, and plan for my life. It has truly been a journey that has been lived out by faith. And so I'll kind of introduce you to how I entered into this line of work. I worked in corporate America for many years and had a very, very successful career. I was getting ready to be promoted to management. I was getting ready to get my 3 weeks vacation, my big cubicle, not the little cubicle, but the big cubicle. And and then I began to just ask God this question. I sat by a really big window at my past job, and I used to just look out in the window, and I would just kind of talk to God in my head. And I just remember asking God several times, like, what did you create me for? What did you put me here for? Like, what is my purpose in this world? And I really wasn't asking that question to get an answer. Truthfully, I was not. I was just talking to God in my head. And I have a dear friend named Brenda who said one time, she said, God will answer your thoughts. And that happened to me. Even though I was asking that question in my head, God answered that thought, and he made it very clear to me what my purpose and vision was. My purpose in life was as far as what he had planned for me. And when God revealed it to me, I have to be very honest. I did not want to do it. I said, oh no, I don't want to work with children. He told me that my purpose in life was to minister the love of Christ to children through education. And I just remember telling God, no, that's not what I'm not made for that. I was like, I have 3 children of my own. Truly, I don't want to go work with other people's children. And I tried to convince God that my best purpose in life was to help women who felt like maybe they had made mistakes in their past, or they had, made some wrong choices in their life, and they just really didn't have a purpose. And I wanted to encourage women that no matter what past mistakes or wrong turns you've taken in life, God still has a plan for your life. But God was very clear to me that was not his plan. His plan was for me to work with children. And so finally, I gave in to God's, not gave in, but I became obedient to God's call and purpose for my life. And all I can tell you is that was the best decision I have ever made in my entire life, was saying yes to God's call and purpose for my life to work with children, because it has been the most rewarding journey I have ever been on. And it's a journey that's kind of like a runaway train. It's like it has no end. Like, just when I think I've accomplished this much, or I can't do any better than this, God comes with the next level. So I started out, and I stepped out on faith. I talked to my husband, and I'm gonna be being honest moment is, I actually looked to my husband as a way out, because I said, okay, God, you said, how can 2 walk together unless they agree? And who am I to throw the word at the word? Here I am trying to tell the word what the word says, but that's what I did. And I said, if I ask my husband, tell him that I'm going to leave my job to start this business, and he says no, I said, I can't do that, because you said we have to be in agreement, and he's the head of the household. And so I got all excited, because I just knew this was going to be my way out. And I went and talked to my husband, and I said, I've been telling you that God is leading me to leave my job and start this business. I said, well, he said, now is the time. And I told my husband, I actually was looking, I was just so excited, because I just knew he was going to say, Carmen, it takes both of our incomes. You can't leave your job and start out with nothing. How will we make it? And my husband just looked at me. He didn't say anything for about a couple of seconds. Then he looked at me and said, well, Carmen, if God is telling you to leave your job, who am I to tell you anything differently than what God is telling you? And in my head, I was thinking, like, wrong answer. Like, I wanted to slap him and say, wrong answer. That's not the answer, And I literally got up, I walked out the room, and I said, okay, God, you win. It's after school program. It is. I'm all yours. Just lead me on this journey. So God, when I tell you that God led me God led me every step of the way. We really don't have enough time on the show for me to tell you how he led me, but he led me. He helped me write the business plan. I would be writing the business plan and words and ideas would come in my head. And I'm like, I don't use that word. I don't talk like that. But it was the Holy Spirit guiding me because I had to write the business plan first. And so once I wrote the business plan, I was like, okay, God, what's next? I got the business plan, but where is this program going to be held? Where do I go? Because I'm very anal when it comes down to following God. I want every detail and every answer. And so I said, well, God, where am I to put this program? And he led me to Mount Carmel. He said, go talk to your pastor, share the vision with your pastor, and ask him to provide you with space. I was obedient. I went to the church. They gave me space, and we started with 35 children. And again, to show you just how involved God was, when I went to the church, I was like, okay, God, so where do I get the children from? And he said, well, call the schools that are in this area. So I called this particular principal at a school called Wesley Hills, and I told her, I said, well, I called first, and her secretary put me through to her. And when she answered the phone and I told her who I was, she said, how did you get to me? And I said, well, I just called the school and your secretary put you through. She said, you asked for me and she put you through? And I said, yes, ma'am. And I was kind of perplexed as to why she was asking me that way. And she said, oh, I'm sorry. She said, don't worry about that. I'll take care of it. And I later found out that her secretary was never to put anyone just straight through to her. And that just shows you how it was God. And so I told her that I was starting an after school program and I wanted to work with her school. And she asked me, she said, well, do you have any need for any supplies? And I said, yes. I said, I'm starting from scratch. I have nothing. She said, do you have a truck? I said, well, I have an SUV. She said, can you come over here today? And I said, yeah. She said, can you come at 3 o'clock? I was like, yes, ma'am. She said, well, come on. She said, I got a ton of supplies for you. And I went over there, and all the time I've been thinking like, God, well, what am I going to teach the kids with? I don't have money to buy this stuff. She gave me, when I tell you, a complete school of supplies. She gave me math kits, reading kits that had not even been opened, brand new reading books. When I tell you, she gave me everything. And then I was worried about, well, God, how am I going to supply them with snacks? She said to me, she said, are you going to feed them snacks and after school? I said, well, yes, ma'am, I have to. She said, well, the junior league brings all these snacks over here to us and we can't get them all out. She said, can you come over here every week and I'll give you boxes of snacks? So that's when I knew for sure that God was truly leading this vision and that he was, just supplying it. And it's just so many stories like that. I could tell you stories that have happened over this 20-year span that would encourage anyone that if God is leading you to do something, put your fears and your reservations aside and just take that leap of faith and do it.
Wow. What's so amazing to me about that is one thing that really hit me right there too, Marlon, is we got to have Pastor K on. Because when we, look at the support that he's given, what we've done with Wins, what he's done with Carmen and where that's gone, I think we got to bring him on. I think we got to bring that spiritual leadership on and just share with us one Thursday. But what's so amazing is that when God calls you to do something, he will provide the resources. They say he won't give you a vision without the provision. And what I love about what you're saying is that you trusted. I mean, you trusted him and he knew what you needed in order to move forward. Like, so if your husband would have said, no, but God knew that you needed to hear that confirmation.
Right.
Yeah.
And he did that, but you still had to walk in it. You still had to walk in it. I imagine, even though, we know clear that God's telling us to do something, what is it like to be saying, hey, listen, I'm going to leave this corporate job where I know, listen, it's a job, right? And I know every 2 weeks there's going to be a deposit into my bank account.
Yeah.
And I'm going to leave the security of that.
Yeah.
Okay, Marlon, we've been through it, but I want to hear Carmen's perspective of what that was like when you turned in the resignation and knew that you were walking away from it.
And Tony, I'm so glad you asked that, because I really did want to share that with people, because a lot of times when you do step out to start your own business, you know, there's not always these big contracts. There's not always this guaranteed money. It's not always a steady stream of money. The one thing I could say was, you know, I had my husband as a backup, but his salary did not cover all of our expenses. And it was an amazing thing, because the first year we didn't have money. You know, because I hadn't got my 501(c)(3) yet. So I couldn't get grants. And so I had to just trust God. And the funny thing was, when I would do our taxes, and that particular year, by me leaving my job, our income was cut completely in half. And I just remember when I did my income taxes and I saw what we brought in that year versus previous years, I said, how in the world did we make it?
Wow.
How did it take both of our incomes to survive, you know, week to week and month to month? And God took away my complete income. And this is how God was too. I mean, how he really wanted to show me this was him. My husband would always get like overtime, and they would get monthly bonuses. That he came home one day and said, Carmen, they told us we can't work overtime this year, and they're cutting our bonuses every month. I'm like, what? He said, yeah. And so God, I guess God said, I'm gonna cut everything that you depend on away, so you can know this is me, and I want you to depend on me. And when I saw our taxes, I was like, God, how in the world did we didn't miss a house payment. We was not late on the light bill. The refrigerator stayed full of food. I even bought my daughter a car that year. And so God provided. Now, when I finally got the 501(c)(3) and I got my first seed grant, it wasn't enough to pay myself and the other teacher that was working for us. We worked the first 5 months with no pay, because it took that long for the grant to come in. And and when it came in, I was so excited. Like, I'm telling you, $20 became like $100 to me. I learned how to value every dollar that, you know, came my way, because I no longer, like you said, had the luxury of a steady income. I didn't have a retirement plan anymore. You know, I wiped out my retirement plan, you know, trying to make sure we could make ends meet at my home. And I remember one time, it was like in January, and my girlfriend, she worked at a bank, and I called her one day, and she said, yeah, we're getting ready to get our end of the year bonus. It's coming in January, and I'm so excited. And you know how sometimes something happens, God speaks something to you, and you know the exact place, the exact moment, everything about it.
Right.
So she was telling me about this bonus that they were getting ready to get. And when I got off the phone with her, I said, you know what, God, if I was still at my job, I'd be getting ready to get a bonus. And I remember, God, I was at the intersection of what is now 3rd Street and Charlottetown, right there by CPCC. And I was at the light, and I remember, and I was telling God, if I was still on my job, if you hadn't told me to leave my job, I'd be getting this big bonus. And God said, he spoke to me so clearly. He said, Carmen, he said, if you want what man has for you, go back to your job. He said, but if you want what I have for you,
wow.
He said, and I can guarantee you, man cannot touch what I have for you. He said, if you stay with me, I'll prove myself to you. And I just remember the moment. I remember his exact words. And I remember exactly where I was. And that has stayed in my head. God said, man will not be able to touch what I have for you. And there's no way that job could have given me the fulfillment that I have received by just following God's plan.
And so it becomes more than about money. And, you know, and as we were even earlier today, we did a program for, you know, Hub, historically underutilized businesses here and Charlotte. And that's one of the things we're coaching them about, is some of the things you're talking about, is understanding that paying yourself. You know, when you're a startup business, you may not be able to pay yourself. I remember my days really in asking myself, why am I doing this? I mean, I had a staff and they were paid. And when I got done paying my staff, I didn't have anything left for me.
Yeah.
And so I can remember literally driving home saying, what? I got to go home and deliver this message, right?
Yeah.
So I understand exactly where you're coming from. But I love the faith base and how you just always rely on God for it. And you know, Marlon, we've had those journeys, right? We've been in situations where, you know, we think about COVID-19, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, how it has changed our business model.
Right.
Marlon, you know, yourself, I mean, you've spoken in 18 countries, right? 43 states, and people aren't gathering like that anymore.
Right.
And
Right.
so we have to adjust.
Yeah. And I think, you know, the biggest thing is that, you know, as you're hearing in Carmen's story, it's been a faith walk, but she also has a relationship, a very, very sincere and deep relationship, right? Where she seeks out God. So, you know, for our viewers, you know, what is your way of getting centered? What is your way of connecting to the higher supreme power? Okay. You know, and I would love for you to type in the chat box. You know, I know for me, you know, what I do is, like I said, I have these scriptures on index cards, and I go for a walk, and I just recite it out loud. So that's my thing. And Carmen, what is your daily routine, or what are some of your habits for getting in that zone, that space, right? I mean, the Bible talks about how Jesus would, you know, go by himself, right? Be, you know, set apart and pray. And so I'd like to hear from you. What do you have a daily ritual or routine? Because again, to me, it's one thing to talk about faith and whatnot, but we want to really go deeper so that our viewers can really understand, here's one person's way of really connecting, you know? And so I'd love to hear, what do you do? How do you do this?
Okay. Well, you know, the Bible tells us that God gives each one of us gifts and talents. And one of the gifts that God has given me is the gift of intercession and prayer. And I tell people all the time, if you had known me before God gave me that gift, you would say, there's no way you're an intercessor, because my prayer life was like, now I lay me down to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep. I'm sure I was an adult saying that as a prayer. And I grew up in a devout Christian home and knew about prayer, but that was my prayer life. And once I discovered my gift of prayer, that became the most important thing in my life. It was like drinking water. It was like breathing to me. I wake up in the morning. I start my morning mainly like at 5, 6 o'clock. I get up and I try to not spend less than an hour in prayer. I try to get to work by 8, but I try to make it to where I spend a complete hour in prayer.
Wow.
And a part of that prayer, I have a devotional that I use. And one of the things, as I grew and matured in my prayer life with God, I have truly learned that, you know, the first thing is just to be quiet. Because I'm an intercessor, it's really hard for me to enter into prayer quietly. It's hard. But I try to be quiet first. And one of the things that God does for me is as soon as I open my eyes, there is a song playing in my head. And that's how God speaks to me first. Like, I have a best friend, and she said the minute she opens her eyes, God speaks a word to her. And he will take that word and lead her through her devotion. Well, for me, as soon as I open my eyes, there is a song, a melody, a tune playing in my head. And what I'll do is I'll turn that song on first, and I'll just listen for God to speak to me through that song. And then that guides my prayer life. I use a devotional. I have 3 devotionals that I use. And the funny thing is, I'm sure many people online can relate to this, I let God speak to me first. I don't read the devotional first. I don't want to have somebody else speak to me first. I want God to speak to me first. So when he speaks to me first, 90% of the time, what he has said to me aligns with one of my devotionals. It almost never fails. That's my morning thing. And sometimes I have prayer partners. One of them is on now, my friend Michelle Smith. She's in listening via YouTube. My best friend Brenda Pierce, and my other best friend Verita Elliott. Those are my top prayer partners. I love praying with my daughter. I see her. My oldest daughter, I see that she has that mantle of prayer on her as well. But that's the first thing, Marlon, is if I don't spend time with God, I almost feel like, and I hate to be kind of say this in this way, but I feel like I just walked out the house without my clothes on. You know, like
covering. Yes.
Yeah.
No covering. Yeah, absolutely. That makes perfect sense to me. I'm going to challenge you this, and I hope folks won't take this the wrong way. I remember, being asked some similar questions years ago. I used to travel and talk all the time to other agents about, and I always talked about my faith and prayer. And I remember at one meeting, someone asked me this. It's like, okay, I understand that, but tell me what you do when you get off your knees. What are the practical things that you do? And I really want to get into a little bit of the challenges of running a nonprofit. I want us to get into a little bit of that. So what are some unique things that you think nonprofit businesses have to deal with that maybe other businesses don't?
Well, in the nonprofit world, you mainly depend on grant funding, unless your nonprofit has like a fee-based component. And you have to be careful as a nonprofit if you do decide to have a fee-based program, because that's one of the things a lot of funders will ask you is, do you charge people? And it's a turnoff to a lot of funders if you have a fee. Most of the grants that I receive will not allow me to even charge fees to people. And I have been blessed to get in some of the largest, most secure funding streams that I have been able to get. Like, I've been in one grant for 12 years now, and I've been continuously funded. Another grant, we've received it for 5 straight years. Another grant, now we just started getting it, and they have given us multiple grants, and they've been increased the funding each year. They give us an increase in funding. And the one thing that I would say as a nonprofit is be willing to put in the long hours, because as a nonprofit, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be the accountant, you're going to be the janitor, you're going to be the marketing person. You're going to wear many roles, and you don't try to just go in and say, oh, I'm the executive director and that's it. No, be willing to. I can't tell you how many years I cleaned the bathroom. You have to go do all the shopping, lugging stuff in, getting off from, and there's no such thing as getting off from work at 5 o'clock. They would end at 5 o'clock. I would get in my car and come home. I would eat dinner, and then I would go to my computer, and I would be on there another 3 to 4 hours. And that's, even though I've been in business it's getting ready to be close to 19 years now, that hasn't changed. The long hours, the constantly seeking for funding, writing grants, and most grants are reimbursement grants under nonprofits. A few you get the cash up front, but most are reimbursable grants. And you have to have that money. Yeah, you have to have that money up front, meaning you have to spend it first, then they pay you back. And if you don't have that available cash, or you don't have a line of credit, it's hard to manage those type of grants. And then the thing is, most people don't understand, if you're not a national nonprofit, say like the YWYM or Boys and Girls Club, you're not going to be like an executive director that's making 6 figures. It's just not going to happen. If you're a grassroots, you can make a good salary. I'm grateful for my salary. I know that my work is worth more than what I'm paid, but I understand that as a grassroots nonprofit, there's a limit to the ceiling of what you can pay yourself sometimes. I tell people, not that a nonprofit, you can't get rich off of it, but don't come in this with thinking, oh, I'm going to get rich, because there are times when I take myself out of payroll. I haven't had to do that as much as now than what I did in the beginning.
Years.
But there were many times where, like you said, Tony, everybody else got paid and I didn't, But, we
go ahead.
We're in a blessed place now. We have a very solid financial portfolio, and I don't have to do that anymore. But that probably has just happened like in the last 3 to 4 years. And anytime before that, yeah, there were lots of times everybody else wanted raises. They got raises. My salary stayed flat.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think one of the things I want to talk about explore a couple things you said is a lot of times people don't understand as a nonprofit, as a profit business, they pay you for your services up front. As a nonprofit, they pay you for your services on the back end.
Yes.
And so I think that's a very unique position to be in. The other thing is that you mentioned that your staff would get raises, they would get paid. And we really haven't gotten into a conversation with our guests in terms of what is it like to have to carry that staff. And ultimately, I think that there is some responsibility because when you hire someone and they're getting a paycheck, and they're depending, now you're the provider of that paycheck twice a month.
Right.
What is that feeling like?
It's like trying to carry Mount Rushmore on your back, honestly, because sometimes the grant money wouldn't come in time. And I knew that these people could not, they were dependent on their salary. They were dependent on their paycheck. And there were times where I had to go to my bank and take out like a personal loan and put it up for payroll so that payroll would get paid. And, I would always get to pay it right back off, when the money came in. But sometimes the money would be slow coming in from the funder. And there were many nights, and I do have to give God credit. There were many times too when I was like, okay, God, payroll is, I got to process it in 3 more days. And, I don't see any money coming in. I don't know where some's coming in from. And literally someone would call me and say, Carmen, we just found out we have this extra funding and we want to ask you to come and do some work for our children. And we have like $10,000 and we're ready to give that to you. Can you just send us a quick proposal and come by and pick up the check? And, and I would see God provide like that. But, and in 19 years, I have never missed a payroll, but I've been late 2 times. And late 2 times was by 1 day. And the other late time was where that I didn't give their check direct deposit. I told them to meet me at the building at 5 o'clock and I gave them their check. So out of 19 years, I have faithfully made payroll for all of my staff. And that is one of my most, when I think about prioritizing what I do, that is like the most important thing to me is that when it's payday, that money is in their account. And Marlon and Tony, you can attest to this. This was my first year being able to offer a 401, retirement benefits to my staff. And we're one of the few nonprofits that's my size or on my level. My other friends who have after school programs, they don't have retirement plans for their staff. They don't even have retirement for themselves. So, and it's a huge burden because that if I don't make that payroll, some of those my staff members have automatic withdrawals, and you don't make that payroll, you put them in a bad predicament.
Right.
Wow. I mean, that's real talk. And I mean, Carmen, man, time flies when you're having fun, right? And I love what Tony's talking about. And you look, Brother Day said he does daily devotional to start each day. You talked about that. Brother Brad said, daily Bible reading, praying daily. Okay. Adele says, Mrs. Blackman, this is great information. Thank you for sharing your story with us tonight. God is so good, right? and he's in control. And so, you know, Carmen, let's talk about COVID-19. Because here you have an after school program, and you've got, you know, Tony and I both have been to your program. We've worked with your staff. You know, you're very committed, very passionate. Talk to us, because I know you and I had even talked right before COVID-19, right? And, you know, then things got turned upside down. I want the real deal right now, really. I mean, what went in your mind? What are you thinking? I know for me as a speaker, all of my engagements evaporated. So for you, right, your business model after school, schools now make this decision, you know, stay at home order. Talk to us about what went on with you. You know, how did you, you know, grow through this? Talk to us about COVID-19 and the impact that it had on you, ABS, you know, and how did you grow through it?
Well, the one thing that all of our funders offered, Marlon and Tony, was they offered us the opportunity to keep our funding and keep our program going if we did it remote. They knew that we could do it in person, but they allowed us to keep our funding if we were able to do it remote. Okay. And so the one thing that kept weighing on my mind is, God, there is no way we can leave these children without any connection to education for however long this COVID is going to be in around us or with us.
Right.
And so we reached out to all our families. We said, hey, we're able to still offer remote learning, because the schools, you know, stayed with remote learning. So we kept our after school program going. We did it remote. The one thing I would say, Marlon, was that we truly had to learn new platforms. We had to learn how to use Zoom. We had to learn how to make learning very engaging for children who had already been online for 3 and 4 hours, and now you want them to come on with you for 2 or 3 more hours. Right. So our staff had to become entertainers, educators, you know, because you had to keep the children's interest. We had to, and there's a trust factor too. I'm going to be honest with you. There's a trust factor because now all your staff are working remote. So you're paying people for 8 hours a day to work from home, and you know about how that goes. Right. And so, you know, and I'm the kind, and because I'm such a dedicated hard worker, I want everybody around me to be a hard worker. And I'm like, I know y'all not putting in 8 hours, but I had to kind of get rid, because I'm like, Carmen, you can't get bogged down in the weeds. You know, just come out of the weeds and stay in the grass. And so I constantly tried to keep my staff engaged. We had ongoing staff. We increased our staff meetings. Okay. And COVID, it just made us learn so many new platforms, things that we would have never done before. We're doing it now. And I have to say, it's been a blessing. And yes. Yeah.
No, I mean, that's real talk. So thank you, because I guess I wanted people, and you said it's been a blessing. And that's one of the things that Tony and I really talk about. Same thing with this program. You know, we weren't doing this until April 2nd, and we thought we were going to do it 1 or 2 times. But the feedback was so positive that we're like, yo, we got to keep this rolling. We have not missed a Thursday. And you know, Tony keeps on getting these downloads. I mean, this man, he's very gifted. And like you know, he is really one that, you know, really seeks God's direction. And I want really our viewers to really hear this, because, you know, I'll be the first to raise my hand. I've done a lot of quote unquote good things, but now, you know what, God, what is thy will, right? Because good is not great. Good is not always right. I mean, you know what I'm saying? The enemy of greatness is good, right?
Yeah.
I mean, right. So I appreciate that. And so, Carmen, in regards to the viewers, you know, we've got a whole cross section. You know, you saw people in the state of Washington watching. You know, is in Washington. Dear friend Carrie is in Australia. She says, "Good morning." Okay, good morning. It is right now like 11 a.m. over in Australia. Okay, so this is real time. So my point is, we have people all over, and so what would be some insights, some pearls of wisdom, you know, as far as helping people to really have that same passion, excitement, you know, that because when you're on purpose, like time just moves by. You already talked about you come home, you eat dinner, and then another 3 hours on the computer. But really, your work is your play, because you're on purpose. It's your mission. So talk to us about, for those viewers that might be, maybe I haven't connected to my purpose. Do you have any strategies? Are there any insights that you can share for them to become more aware of their purpose?
Yeah, I really do, Marlon. Thanks for asking that question. Whatever burdens you, whatever keeps you awake at night, is probably a key to knowing what your purpose is. If homeless people keep you awake at night, if it burdens your heart when you see them, that is probably the area God wants to lead you in. Because when God called me to education, children were a burden to my heart because my son had gone from a private school to a public school, and I saw the disparities in the children in his classroom, and my son was operating on a different level, and I knew I hadn't done anything special, and it burdened my heart. So I think the first thing God did was burden my heart. So whatever burdens you, whatever stays on your mind, that is key to me. That's a crucial key to where God is leading you to serve, because it is something that you wake up at night. You wake up, you think about, you go to bed thinking about it. And most people that I have seen that have stepped out on faith and done something, most of them say that burdened them.
Wow.
And I would say, secondly, if it's something that you would do, and I hate to say this because I know it's a saying, but if you would do something and not get paid for it,
come on, somebody.
That's probably key to, that's probably a purpose and calling for your life. And the second thing I would say, whether you are a believer or maybe you're on the fence about, God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit and all this stuff that you hear Christians talking about, I say, go out on a limb and say, God, if all this stuff this woman is saying and Marlon and Tony have been saying, if this stuff is real, speak to me. Tell me what my purpose is. Show me. And I guarantee you, God is he's like, yes, I've been waiting on you to ask me that question.
Yeah.
God wants to lead us in his purpose and plan for our lives. And I would just say, take a chance,
Right.
and trust that God will lead you, that he will guide you.
Wow.
But I think that the number one thing is whatever it is that burdens you.
Yes, come on. And what's so powerful, and Tony's gonna come back in a minute, and Tony's got this really phenomenal graphic that he created. Again, he gets these downloads, right? And that's what I love, and I think, one of the things for our viewers, we have, Tony and I have actually, interacted, done some training with ABS staff. And what I love is that it's a very unique group, they had, right, Tony? They have their uniqueness. And viewers, I want you to remember, when you're doing, as Carmen said, when you're on purpose, right, then you can celebrate other people. There's no jealousy, there's no ego, there's no envy. You're doing what you're called to do. Are you with me? And I've had people say, Marlon, you and Tony, man, y'all just flow so well. Sometimes they're like, man, y'all like the odd couple. Tony's the really smart one. You're the jokester, right? But the point is that we're very comfortable in who we are because you know who you are. And I wanted to just say that about ABS is that, unique personalities, right? But the beautiful thing is that, again, when you're on purpose. And so with what Tony and Carmen and I have talked about, for all of our viewers, remember, there's something for you. You're born on purpose, and COVID-19, you said it was a blessing. I think it's a blessing too. Don't get me wrong, 160,000 people have passed away. I get it. I'm sorry. My uncle, was diagnosed COVID-19 positive, on a ventilator machine, the whole nine, but the thing I'm saying is that the beautiful thing is, sometimes we have to slow down and right. And like, I was never going for walks, never carried around all these scriptures on index cards. Right. But now it's part of my routine. I love it. Right. And I haven't gotten to an hour of prayer. Okay, sister, you are not playing. I love it. But
that's awesome.
That's impressive. Right. And so, the thing is, though, and I'm turned over to Tony, I love what you said about the burden.
Mm-hmm.
right? It's just gnawing at you. Bruce Wilkinson, the author of The Prayer of Jabez, right? When I lived in South Africa, he lived there, right? And he said the same thing. When you have that burden on you, it's almost like you're being called to be the solution.
Right.
Really,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I've seen Tony like just, he might have 7, 8, financial coaching, sessions, Zoom calls right after the other. And he's just like, it'd be 10:30 at night. He's still doing it because it's part of his purpose. It's who he loves it. He loves the number. He loves, okay, what's the best option for this person, right? And that is the same thing I'm hearing about you. When you saw your son in the class and some of his classmates, maybe not being prepared, right? Mm-hmm. I love your name of your company, Above and Beyond Students.
Yeah. And let me tell you that, Marlon, God gave me the name because I remember driving after he told me what I was supposed to do. I kept saying, well, God, what am I going to name this? Like, nobody knows me. I don't have any education, background. So it has to be a name that would draw the people. And one day I was driving, and again, I know exactly where I was. I was at the intersection of Sharon, Amity, and Independence. And I heard the Holy Spirit say, Above and Beyond Students. I said, what's that? And he said it again. I said, oh, that's the name. And I was like, wow, that's a good name, God. That's a great name,
Right.
And I do want to say one thing, Marlon. I know I'm talking about, they're introducing me as, a nonprofit, and I do have a nonprofit, but I also have a for-profit business because the Lord led me to start a for-profit called Above and Beyond Academic Learning Center, where we do tutoring, individual tutoring. Okay. But I do want to say this. A lot of people may think, well, do I have to leave my job? Is God going to make me leave my job? God doesn't call everyone to leave their job.
Amen.
Your purpose in life may be a manager at Bank of America because God needs your light there. He needs your the peace that you bring, the honesty and integrity that you bring. So even if God doesn't call you out of corporate America, don't think that God doesn't have a purpose, a calling for your life. You don't know what people God wants to bring across your path as you're in corporate America. So I don't want people to think that the only time God calls you or has a vision for you is when he calls you to do something like a nonprofit, to start your own business. God may keep you in corporate America and use you greatly there. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there.
Well, I'm so glad you did that because there's a couple things. One of the things that that you said, and the thing that came to my mind is so often God is waiting for our actions to catch up with our anointing.
Yes.
and so we've been anointed to do something.
Yes.
But we're procrastinating or we're holding back.
Yes.
And I love what you said, because one of the things I always caution people, it's like, hey, don't you go out and just quit your job.
Yeah.
Right? You better know for sure that it's God, and you better know, and you better have a plan, and you better have some support because you'll be out here on your own, right?
That's right. Yes.
And so never alone. We understand that God is with you and all of that, but it's so important that we make that distinction for people because so often what people want to do is they want to be Carmen Blackman the day that they step out of the corporate world. they want to be a Marlon Smith because they've seen him speak, and everybody wants to be a speaker.
Yeah, I didn't want to be
a guy, right? So, but it's very important that we understand that there's some. You have to move with urgency, but you also have to be cautious. We have to learn how to be both satisfied and hungry. And I always say this is that, I love to have people on my team who are hungry but not starving, right? And so it's not that it's a difference in running from something and running to something.
Yeah.
God does, in my opinion, now, and I'm talking from my own experience. And when you talked about how God called you to do Above and Beyond students, it reminded so much of my call to ministry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when you talk about what burdens you,
Mm-hmm.
like Jeremiah, right? Jeremiah said it's like fire shut up in my bones. And
Yeah.
when you see a problem and you
Yeah.
can't get past it,
That's it. Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I got to do something about this.
Right.
If I don't, I'm going to drop. Eric Thomas says that when you want something so bad that it's like you want it as bad as you want to breathe.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And that's what it becomes. That's what it becomes. But
Yeah.
but I do want to do this. I want to thank you for being
Yes.
with us tonight. I think it's been so inspiring.
Thank you.
We love what you're doing with ABS, Above and Beyond students, your staff. I think I've met most of them, if not all of them. They're just wonderful people,
They are.
wonderful educators, and they care.
Yeah.
They care about those students, and you care about those students. And I'm in a house full of educators, and I understand that burden, you know, that you have with wanting to educate.
Mm-hmm.
And we're keeping you, we're keeping the school, we're keeping CMS, schools all over the country. We're hearing the news stories about all the COVID cases that are breaking out. And we're keeping everyone who's on the front line in prayer with that. I mean, I'm not just talking about the nurses and doctors, I'm talking about the janitorial staff, you know, people who are there. And so we want to keep them in prayer.
Yeah.
But so we do thank you for being on. I do just want to go over this graphic. I just want to spend 2 or 3 minutes on it because so much of what Carmen said tonight reminded me of this. And it's really something that we created for Hub. And when we were looking at it, it was about, you know, a seasoned business owner and a new business owner. So on one hand, you have a new business owner. On the other hand, you have a seasoned business owner. And you can change that to profit versus nonprofit, you know, but you have to think about these things. And the first one is paying yourself. When you start a business, you got to think about how are you going to pay yourself? How are you going to survive for those first few months, maybe years, where you can't pay yourself? And everyone wants to be like the business owner that's doing well and driving the fancy car. But when you're starting out and you're pulling yourself up by the bootstraps, how are you going to deal? How are you going to reinvest? And then the other one is do it yourself versus contract. You heard Carmen say tonight, I've cleaned the bathroom. You've heard her talk about all the things that she had to do as a business owner, as a new business owner, and as a nonprofit. So do it yourself versus contract versus employee. When you hire employees, there's a whole nother stuff to come with that. There's the federal unemployment tax, the state unemployment tax, the FICA, all those types of things. So you really have to think about that. And then what about your legal matters, right? Your LLC or your nonprofit, your 501(c)(3). Are you going to file those things yourself? Are you going to be able to go out and get someone? And a lot of things we got to do when we're new business owners or we're going through economic times where the economic conditions around us have had an impact. You got to decide, maybe I got to go back to cleaning the bathroom. Maybe I got to go back to doing some of the things that I didn't do early in my career. And then we move on and we talk about things like how you fund your business. You heard Carmen talk about as a new nonprofit that, you know, the grant money wasn't there, but the work still had to be done because you're getting paid on the back end. Do you have the faith? Do you have the stamina to do that? Now that her business is established and she's got some solid funding, she's had some of those fundings for years, it's different as a seasoned business. And then the bookkeeping, you know, who's keeping track of the books, right? That's so important. Are you doing it yourself through QuickBooks? Or are you hiring it out and getting some great people to do that? And so those are all important parts too. And then paid in full. That's one of the things. You have to understand the most important thing about the paid in full, and what we're talking about is paying your bills in full. And the most important thing about that is you understand the cycles of your business. You know, if you're retail, is Christmas your big time? If your after school program, is it the summer programs or is it the after school programs from September through June? You have to understand the cycles of your business. And when you understand that, you can actually pay some things in full. For example, you know, in your web page, you can pay for that for a year versus paying each month so that you have to deal with it when times become slow. Pay it when the flow and your revenue are coming in. And then the last one, and I think we talked about this a little bit, is quitting your job. You know, you have to know, as a new business owner, we always say, hey, listen, you got, and we have to be careful when we tell people this. And it's a balancing act. You know, jump in, they say, jump in feet first. You know, don't dip your toe in the water, jump in all the way. And I do believe that there's moments and times when that is necessary. I faced that myself. When I changed my business model 2 years ago, when I changed my business model a year ago, I was doing final expense. I was going door to door, and I had to change. And sometimes you do have to make a leap of faith. But there are times when you just have to take it one step at a time. You have to understand, you have to go through cycles. I tell people all the time, if you come into, and I'm talking my business, if you come into our business and you're ready to quit your job, if you haven't been doing this a year, you ain't ready to quit your job. Because you haven't been through November, Thanksgiving through Christmas. People don't buy insurance. People don't start that stuff in November through Christmas. And so you have to go through some cycles and know your business and know how it works. And you have to do that. And so when you get to the point where you say you're ready to quit your job, you got to really have a plan. And you really got to know what you're getting into. Because once you quit your job, you know, there's no turning back. And sometimes, yes, we do need to. We do need to cut the umbilical cord. We do need to say, hey, listen, I'm doing this and there's no plan B. But I want you just to be careful. And I want you to be prayerful about it. And here's the other thing I tell people too, is that it's not all or nothing. You know, sometimes we need to start our business, but maybe you need to get a part-time job. Maybe you need to get a part-time job while your business is growing. Maybe you jump all in. But sometimes you come to a point where it costs you more to go to your job than it costs you to do your own business. And then ultimately, it's not always about the money. We got to remember that. You know, sometimes you make less money, but you have more peace in your life. And you know that you're fulfilling God's purpose for you. And it's amazing how our grandmothers, it's amazing how our ancestors took a little bit of nothing and did so much with it. I think if my dad, my mom, my grandma, if they knew the amount of money that we make today, they would say, what in the world? You know, they were making off of so much less than what we have. And we have to understand, and I always said this, is that, you know, just because your income may not be what it was or what you thought it is. And sometimes as a business owner, you got to realize that. You got to realize that there are people you might look at and say, man, if I would have stayed in that corporate job, look, they got the corporate card, they got the corporate American Express card, they got all this wonderful stuff, but you don't know what their life is like. Are they really fulfilled? Or do they go take the elevator from the top floor, go down and go home miserable every day? So I'd rather be happy than to have a lot of money and be miserable. And the thing that I believe is this: I believe that God is able, right? The righteous has never been forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. And God can protect us, and God can do so much for us. And that's what I love about what Carmen shared tonight. It's faith. I mean, you know, we've been through COVID, and our business is flourishing. And we're doing this real Money Coach Show. Marlon talked about it. We're doing it every Monday. We hadn't gotten paid anything for doing this, you know, but it was something God called us to do. And so my prayer is that this has been a blessing for you, and we're going to continue to bring you the very best people like Carmen, people who are experts in their field, so that we all can be blessed. And so that's my spiel tonight. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
All right. All right. So listen, you know, you can feel the passion, you can feel the excitement. And if you have, like Tony said, I mean, we've been doing this since April 2nd, you know, just really just rocking and rolling every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And thank you, Carrie. Carrie's over in Australia. And I just want to do a recap, because if you have any topics, or if there's any, you know, issues that you want us to address, you know, send an email to info@therealmoneycoach.com, info@therealmoneycoach.com, because again, you know, this is your time. You know, this is almost like, you know, it's a family. You know, we come together Thursday nights, and info@therealmoneycoach.com. You can share with us if there's any topics that you like, or anything that you want us to, you know, really unpack on, you know, future episodes, because, you know, this is so much fun. We're having a great time. So, you know, yeah, I just want to recap. Evelyn Yolande Denson said, those are great points, Mrs. Carmen, because those are the bonds that will cause you to stick with it when things aren't going well, because your why is deeper than the money. Isn't that what Tony just said, right? I'd rather be happy and on purpose, right? And Brother Day said, amen. This session has been fantastic, right? Brad said, great work, Carmen. God bless you always. Alice says, Carmen, truly, my faith has been renewed. Thank you. Whoa, what did y'all hear that? Truly, my faith has been renewed, right? And thank you. So again, that's why these town hall virtual sessions are so important, because we're hearing, we're being touched, right? Spirit to spirit. And so Dr. Crystal Jones said, Aunt Carmen, your walk has always been inspiring for me. Thank you always for answering the call. Look at that. Wow, what'd you say? And so that's really powerful. And we even typed in there Carmen's website, you know, as far as aboveandbeyondstudents.com. Go check it out. See how you can be involved, right? That's what it's all about. And Wayne said, amen. Carrie said, super grateful to you both. And then Ruth Carmen, you are awesome with so much information. God bless you. So ladies and gentlemen, it's been another phenomenal virtual town hall. And on behalf of Tony Jackson, Chris Jackson, and myself, we say thank you. Remember, live with purpose, because when you're on purpose, life takes on new meaning. And Tony's got something else he wants to share.
I gotta stop, man, because there's something we gotta do. This is Chris' birthday today.
Oh, wow.
He turned 26 years old. He's always behind the scenes, never comes out when the show's on.
Wow, yeah.
Chris on the screen. Chris, bring yourself on the screen so we can say happy birthday to you as we close. Come on, yeah. Chris. Everybody say happy birthday to Chris in the text.
Type in the chat box. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, Chris. Happy birthday. And I'm sure he's coming.
Yeah, there he is. See, I'm gonna have to put him in there myself. There we go. I'm gonna put him in there myself. There he is. The birthday boy right there. Behind the scenes, running all of it. We just want to say thank you.
Wow.
Here's somebody that want to say thank you. What do you want to say? What do you want to say to your dad?
Hey, Daddy.
What's up, man?
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
I just had to do that. Chris, thank you, man, for all that you do.
Yeah, man. Yeah, had no idea. And the brother has done 2 of these virtual town halls, you know, today, right? Today is, I lose track of days, right? Thursday. Yeah, I didn't even know. But you see, he's living on purpose. He's doing what he loves. He loves this. Look at that smile. Look at that. Look at that smile. I knew I was going to get those smiles. But that's what it is. And look at all these happy birthdays. We need to type in your what do you call it, Cash App, okay? Send some happy birthday presents now. Come on, somebody, all right? But no, in all seriousness, I mean, this is so great. Thank you, everybody, for saying happy birthday. You're getting it from Australia, okay? I mean, you know what I'm saying? That's how we roll. And all over the United States. My Uncle Jerome is on. Happy birthday. We got to have you come on, Uncle Jerome, and sing it to Chris, okay? Because he's a singer. But, man, this is what it's about. It's a family affair. So, Chris, any words you want to share with us, brother?
No, I mean, I really just appreciate you all just being dedicated, each and every Thursday. Even being behind the scenes, I'm learning a lot myself. And I'm pretty sure everybody else who's watching within, the TRMC community is just as grateful as I am. And thank you all for the birthday wishes. I appreciate it.
No, that's good. That's good. Yeah, that brother. And listen, I mean, he's got his own business. He's director of technology. Again, if you want to have your own show, I mean, this is the man. He does it, and he's handling everything. So again, you can send an email to info@therealmoneycoach.com. And as somebody said, wow, to be 25 again, right? Right? And and TJ said 36th birthday. Okay, yeah. All right. So hey, God bless everybody. We're gonna close out. Cam, you want to say the closing word?
What do you want to say? You say that? Go ahead. It's all right.
I already know.
All right, it's all good. It's all good. That's a young man on a purpose with a bright, great future. So again, aboveandbeyondstudents.com. Go check it out. Carmen Blackman is on a mission, she and her team, and we're very grateful. Grateful for the time because each one of us has a purpose to fulfill. And so with that being shared, I want to say thank you again on behalf of Tony Jackson and Chris Jackson, the birthday boy. We say thank you. The Real Money Coach, every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Share with your family, share with your friends, because what we're doing is making a difference. Remember, there's greatness within you. Stay blessed.